al-Faz, Shirkul al-Faz. This is clearly shirk in wording. What is correct is that it should be said, Ma Allah, thumma sha'a fulan. Whatever Allah willed, then what you willed. And the Shaykh says that in this issue there are two issues that should be pointed out. The first one is that the prohibition of connecting the will of the creation to the will of the Creator with the conjunction wow. Right? It's not permissible. And it's permissible to do it by using the conjunction thumma, meaning then. And the difference is that al-wow, the wow implies at-tashriq, as we mentioned before, like sharing, whereas thumma implies tartib, which means succession, meaning following, and ta'aqib, which means following one after the other. So to make the will of the creation to come after the will of the Creator, and as a result of it, is that is permissible and that is fine. And the second issue in this is that it contains a refutation, it is an evidence for the establishment of the will for the creation, that the creation has a will. And this is a refutation of the Jabariyya, those who say that the creation don't have any will, they don't have any choice, rather they are compelled and they are forced, and it's not from their choice or their will. And this is batil, this is a false madhab. Rather the creation does have a will, but it follows on from the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah says, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. You do not will except as Allah wills. Really Allah is all knowing, all wise. And Allah says in another verse, لِمَنْ شَاءَ مِنْكُمْ أَن يَسْتَقِيمُ وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. To whomever wills amongst you to remain upright, and you do not will except as Allah wills, the Lord of the world. So here Allah affirmed the will for the creation, and He made it to follow after His will, and so therefore the will of the creation results from and follows on from the will of the Creator. And there's also another third benefit from the statement of Hudhayfa, which is, and something that's been covered before in previous chapters, is that whoever prohibits something, and at the same time there is to be found an alternative, a correct alternative, then he should also mention the alternative as well, right? Because, and the proof for this is the saying of the Prophet ﷺ, that when he said, the Prophet said, do not say whatever Allah willed and what you willed, but rather say whatever Allah willed, then what so and so willed. Right? So the proof is, so this shows that whenever you prohibit something and there's to be found something which is a sound alternative, then you should also mention that sound alternative as well. And then we move on to the final statement in the chapter, which is the saying of Ibrahim an-Nakha'i, who said that he used to dislike that anyone says, A'udhu billahi wa bika, I seek refuge in Allah and in you. But it is permissible to say, I seek refuge in Allah, then in you. A'udhu billahi thumma bika. And then he says, and likewise a person can say, Lawla Allahi thumma fulan. If it hadn't been for Allah, and then so and so. But a person shouldn't say, if it hadn't been for Allah, and so and so. So the Shaykh explains that here, that when Ibrahim an-Nakha'i says that he used to dislike that it be said, A'udhu billahi wa bika, I seek refuge in Allah and with you. This is because isti'adha is a type of worship, and it's not permissible to direct it to other than Allah. It's not permissible, for example, to say, A'udhu billahi wa bika, I seek refuge in Allah and in you, because when you say that, then again, you've shared and you've equated between the Creator and the creation, and you have sought, you've sought refuge in both of them, and this is shirk. What is correct is A'udhu billahi thumma bika. So you bring the word thumma because it is tartib, as we've mentioned before. Thumma, because by thumma it means that you've sought refuge in Allah first of all, and then you sought refuge in the creation. And as far as the creation is concerned, you can seek refuge in them as long as it is in something for which they have the power and the ability over. Right? So, a person might say, I seek refuge in Allah and then in you from the from this illness, that's haram, that's shirk, because in this instance the creation don't have any power over illness and things like those affairs, you know. So that's an example where you seek refuge in someone, in something in which he doesn't have the power or ability over. But if it's in something in which he does have the ability and the power over, then obviously that is like fine. Like for example, there might be a downpour or a rain or a storm or something, and then you say to someone, I seek refuge in you from this downpour, meaning I seek shelter in your house from this. Then that's something obviously which that person has the ability over. So from that angle, this is okay. This is fine. But if it's in something in which only Allah has the control and the power and the ability over, then obviously that then that is not permissible, and that would be considered to be shirk. So the Shaykh continues and says, so therefore you can like for example, you can go to such and such person, you can seek from him to protect you from your enemy. So if this person has the ability and the power to protect you from your enemy, then this is permissible. This is permissible. There's nothing wrong with this. As for complete and absolute refuge, then this is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another thing is that it's not allowed to seek refuge in the dead absolutely. So anyone who's dead, absolute terms not prohibited to seek refuge from them at all. And then An-Nakhai also said that a person may also say, if it hadn't been for Allah and then so and so. But a person shouldn't say, if it hadn't been for Allah and so and so. So the explanation of that has already preceded. So then the Shaykh concludes this chapter by saying, all of these affairs that we've looked at here indicate and show that it's obligatory to teach the people the affairs of Aqidah. And the affairs that damage Aqidah and that reduce the Aqidah or make it deficient, because you find most of the people today, the majority of the people, except those whom Allah has willed, they've turned away from learning the Aqidah and from teaching it, and they're not really concerned with it, nor do they call towards it, except those whom Allah has willed. And you find that the majority of the people, they just revolve around other side issues which don't really benefit. So when a person's Aqidah is harmed, they don't benefit are these other side issues. Until, even if these side issues were corrected, like these people want to correct these side issues and they want to rectify them, even if these side issues were corrected and rectified, then they still wouldn't benefit if, without the Aqidah being corrected as well. Because the Aqidah is the foundation, it's the benefit, it's obligatory, it's the foundation, it's the base. It's obligatory that we learn it first of all, and then we call to it, and that we call towards it, and that we correct the mistakes in it before we correct the mistakes that occur, for example, in the mu'amalat, in the dealings between the people, and the corrections in the adab, in the mannerisms and the characteristics and so on and so forth. So what you find today, that these affairs which have spread, meaning these affairs of minor shirk, why have they spread? They've only spread because the teaching of Tawheed has decreased, and the explanation of the Aqidah, to explain the Aqidah in detail and to call towards it in lessons and in gatherings and in the newspapers and the magazines and so on and so forth, because this is diminished and decreased, then this is why these affairs have spread. Due to the shayateen, the devils amongst the jinn and the men, those people who intend to spread corruption in the beliefs of the people. So therefore, to be concerned with the affairs of Aqidah and to correct them is the greatest of concerns. As the Shaykh then brings the verse, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. Know therefore that there is none which has the right to be worshipped except Allah alone, and seek forgiveness for your sin, and likewise the believers and the believing men and the believing women. So he began with ilm, he began with knowledge, meaning فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, have knowledge that there is none which has the right to be worshipped except Allah. So he mentioned knowledge before action, and action here is seeking forgiveness. So he mentioned ilm first before the action, because knowledge obviously is the foundation upon which the rest of the affairs of the religion are based upon. And that's the end of the chapter, and so we conclude the lesson at this point, inshallah.